Moment of Truth. The Moment of Truth broadcast is brought to you each Sunday at this time by the Church of Human Development. We're happy to be with you today, and we're going right into our program. We have with us today Brother Marty Merriweather, and he's going to be opening up on all things regarding the Conerstone prep and issues and questions surrounding that. Brother Merriweather, I'm going to make a couple of announcements, and the core annual Black History Program will be held on the 26th of February at the Walker House, 6 o'clock p.m. We're asking everybody to come and get involved. And Tuesday, at the core meeting at the Walker House, Tuesday, for the Merriweather and the Conerstone issue will be on the top of the agenda, 6 o'clock p.m. Tuesday. So everybody come out to the meeting and get behind the people who are trying to bring justice, education in the Binghamton community and across Memphis, Tennessee. Brother Merriweather.
Thank you, Dr. Richmond. Thank you for having me in today. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be sitting right here, right in front of you, Doc.
Yes, man.
You know, we're back at this issue again.
Yes.
And we've pretty much been dealing with this situation for quite some time now.
Well, you got it.
So what we're trying to do is just want to make sure we can keep the word out, get more people behind the movement, because on the Conerstone end, you know, they just refusing to acknowledge and tell the truth that a lot of these things did occur and did take place. And so now we're in the process of just keeping this thing live for everybody who don't understand what's going on. We want to shed some light on the situation so people will understand what's going on.
Let me ask one question, and I break in now because I'm going to get out. Well, let me ask one question. I hear that the board of directors is an all-white board. The president is white, vice president is white, and you got a black face in the person of the principal and in a non-voting position on the board. Now, is that, because I just heard, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, okay, all right. Conerstone.
Well, you know, we've talked to them about a lot of the key issues and facts, you know, that's really been going on at the school. And a lot of people just have a tendency to want to ignore the truth and ignore the facts. You know, they wrote a newspaper article in the Commercial Appeal talking about the community is divided. The community is not divided. The people that's divided within the community are the people that have kids that attend Conerstone, but they do not live in the Binghamton community. So, you know, those are some of the issues, you know, that we're dealing with, because those people on the outside is trying to say that the people in the community are not being truthful. You know, they're not telling the truth, that the community is just lying. But what people have to understand is that a lot of the parents and family members, you know, they was reaching out to Conerstone prior to all of these things happening. You know, during the month of August, September, October, November, they kept going over there talking to the principal and talking to Drew Sipple, who's the executive director, about some of these issues, you know, telling them, you know, you all need to get this thing right. And basically, they were just ignoring the facts. You know, they had several kids, the teachers was denying the children restroom breaks. So by them not allowing the kids to use the restroom, those students, you know, started using the restroom on themselves. And the next thing you know, we had teachers or staff members from Conerstone, they was being physical with the kids. We've had parents and we've had eyewitnesses come forth and say that they saw teachers or staff members being physical, you know, bending the kids' arms, their hands, you know, fingers, you know, things of that nature. And we also had people stating that they was dragging, you know, kids down the hall and downstairs. And one of the issues is we had another issue that was going on at the school. They was telling the people that the teachers was taking the kids' shoes as a form of punishment, and the kids was walking around the school barefoot. And you know, that's unacceptable anywhere. You know, you got kids walking around barefoot. You know, if you think about it, you know, that'll take you back in time and take you back through history. And that could be, you know, reference to, you know, during the slavery era. Well, you know, blacks weren't allowed to have shoes. So, you know, plus you got to look at it. We had a meeting on December the 19th, and we tried to, you know, bring some light to the situation with Lisa Settles, who was the principal, and Drew Sipple, who's the executive director. We had a young lady, which was a girl, because Conerstone is a pre-K through third grade school. And so what happened is the little girl got up and gave her testimony about the teacher denied her from using the restroom, and she, you know, and she ended up sewing her clothes. Basically, she peed on herself. And they didn't even call and notify the parent. This happened, give or take, around 9:40, 9-ish, you know, during the 9 o'clock hour, and the parent wasn't notified till close to 3 o'clock. And the little girl stated that, you know, she sat in those pee clothes just about all day at school. Now, you know, anywhere that's unacceptable. You know, that should have never happened, you know, at all. And then if you look at some of these newspaper articles, some of the news clips, and if you notice that Lisa Settles' story has been changing. You know, they were saying that a lot of these things didn't happen, didn't occur. And then if you look back and you follow the story, then she'll say that, okay, some things did happen and we did make some changes. You know, the community was asking for an apology letter, you know, just stating that, okay, that these things did occur. They never would give the community an apology. And, you know, we'll have closed-door meetings, you know, trying to get this situation rectified. But in the process of the closed-door meetings, they would acknowledge that these things, you know, did happen and did occur. But when we bring it out to the public, they don't want to bring any of the light out to the public and acknowledge that a lot of these things were wrong that they were doing. You know, and plus you got to keep in mind that according to the original SEA waiver, you're supposed to engage the community in the process of, you know, bringing a charter school to the neighborhoods. You know, they're supposed to find the right match, the right type of charter school to put in that area. And so what they did was they did not even engage the community at all. So when Conerstone tried to have meetings with the community, they had already had the school. They started having meetings. It was either on February 28th or 29th is when they got the information out and started trying to get it out to the public, but they had already had the school. You know, the ASD should have been trying to meet with the community in advance. You know, they should have had Conerstone meeting with the people. You know, it's just like you come into a neighborhood and you take away their heritage, you rip away their history. They come in, they change the name, they change the school colors. You know, you can look at that as just being aware that they did in slavery. You know, when the blacks was brought to America, they took away all our history. You know, they took away our name. They gave us names. They tried to give us new identities. They wanted us to forget who we was in the past or who we were. And that's what happened with Conerstone. You know, they don't even want to give the name back to the community and become Lester Achievement, Lester Prep, you know, Lester Academy. You know, they don't even want to change the school colors. They don't want to do anything like that. It's just like it's my way or the highway. And, you know, and everybody knows the bigger picture behind this is, you know, it's basically the rich versus the poor. You know, you got the rich people versus the poor people. And so the rich people, they don't care what the poor people think or what the poor people say. It's like, hey, we're going to do it our way anyway, no matter what. So, you know, but these are some of the things, you know, that's going to happen, you know, that's going on in the neighborhood. And we just basically, our goal is to continue to shed light on the situation. And I don't know if you've been following the story, but if you have been following the story, it's been in the commercial appeal several times. It's been on all the news stations, 3, 5, 13, 24, 30. And, you know, and it's just like both sides keep saying that, you know, one group is telling the truth, one group is lying. But at the end of the day, what's in the dark is going to come to the light. And I don't think, you know, that people, if you go back and follow the history of Binghamton, the community has never been a type of community where we just came out in mass numbers complaining about situations and things that are going on in this neighborhood. So, you know, what we're going to do is we're going to take calls. So if you have any questions, if you got some comments you would like to make about what's going on with this Conerstone situation, because I know it's a lot of things that I know I've left out, and I know some callers are probably going to call in and have questions. So if you would like to call in, the number is 327-3400. 327-3400. So if you like to call in, if you got questions, or if you probably want to make a statement, I'm here to take your call. And I just want everybody to keep in mind, we're going to try to do this in a professional way, and I will try to answer every question that I can possibly answer. And I want people to understand something. You know, one thing that people have been saying, that the community leaders, which the community leaders is everybody in Binghamton. It's not one person or two people, because our community are all leaders. You know, we're not followers. You know, so we want people to understand that this situation is not just a Binghamton problem. This situation is going to be a Memphis problem. It's going to be a big problem around Memphis. So if you're thinking that this is just going to be a little small neighborhood problem, well, we want people in Memphis to wake up and to understand that they getting ready, the ASD is getting ready to take over in the next 2 years.
I was kind of watching the thing with Conerstone, and my thoughts are, if you ever watched that movie, Lean on Me, that's kind of the way it seems that's happening with Conerstone. Here's a group of people who come in to try to clean up what's been messed up, and now they're just being fought on every hand. My question would be, those people who are complaining, at what level were their children performing before Conerstone, and at what level are they now performing? I can kind of agree with you that perhaps they should have kept the school colors, and perhaps named the school, kept Leicester with Leicester Prep Academy, etc. Something like that. But obviously, there were a need for new direction in that area. Thank you for letting me make these comments.
All right, well, let me address the comment that you made. First of all, let me explain something. Leicester had 5 principals in a 5-year span. Or you could say 4 principals in a 5-year span, because one of the principals was basically just a fill-in. They went almost a year without a principal in the school building. But the last 2 years, Leicester has shown gain on the TVAS and on the TCAP. Leicester finished second in the district on TVAS. And in 2012, I'm sitting here with my TCAP comparison school list. It's 158 schools took the TCAP. Leicester was tied for 11th. 11th. With number 1 being the best. Out of 158 schools, they was tied for 11th. And they finished second on the TVAS. See, what people don't understand is they putting out all this information trying to make it seem like Leicester was a terrible school. But they went a year without a principal. That's on Memphis City Schools. That's not on the community. So people have to understand that. You know, because they constantly putting out in the media that the school was in such bad shape. But if you had all those different rotating principals, and then finally they brought in a principal that showed some stability. He was there for 2 years. Leicester wasn't like some of these other schools. They did not get a fresh start. They going off the last 3 years. So the last 2 years, Leicester was showing promise. They were showing gain. They were doing good. So it wasn't like they wasn't doing good. Now, if you out of 158 schools and you finished tied for number 11, that means you was doing something. And last year, November the 30th of 2012, all the teachers got bonuses. They got bonuses because of how well the students did. So it's just like that old Public Enemy song, don't believe the hype. You can't believe everything that they're telling you because they're leaving out a lot of the information. We got another caller?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, caller. I'm listening.
Okay, hey Marty, this is Brother Moon, Father Williams calling.
Hey, what's going on, Mr. Williams?
Hey, everything's good, bro. Yeah, I was listening to your statements on the radio, and to the lady that called in and said, well, if students are failing, what's wrong with bringing Conerstone in? I mean, if a school is failing, then the people in the community should get this information, and then they should be able to try to start their own destiny and pick someone to come into the community that has the children's best interests at heart. I mean, if you got the children that's failing, and then you're going to bring in someone that don't care nothing about the people or the community to try to teach the children, then you're going to have things happen like these people are complaining about. You know, these people act like these children are lying on these teachers and things about the things that are going on at Conerstone. And I mean, no one wants anyone to come into the community where they live and just take control and change everything about the school system. And these people that are complaining, I'm from the people that don't know who I am. I grew up in Binghamton. I went to left school. Left school was built. Left the high school was built in 1956. You know, that was 2 years after Brown versus the board. Because the white people in Chickasaw Gardens didn't want their children going to school with the people from Binghamton. Then busing started. They still didn't want the kids going to school with them. But, you know, now they couldn't get it. So they put the black children on yellow buses and sent them to white schools. You know, and now all of a sudden they want to come back into the community. The community is slowly being ripped apart. Every time someone moves out of a house, there are outside people moving in. And a lot of these people, they don't have the community at heart. Those are some of the children that are going to Conerstone school. People got to understand this. There are organizations that are buying up properties and moving people into the community and putting them into the house. So when you have these people standing up talking about, well, my child is this and my child is this, everything is not happening to every child. Every slave was not beat. Every slave didn't have whip marks on their back. No, so we got to understand that the community has to stand up. And anyone from the thing after the community is listening, you need to get involved. You know, I just want to say that, man. And I appreciate you and Julio and the rest of the people that are getting together. And I want you to get with me when we're having our next meeting. And Dr. Richmond, I know you're there, Doc. Hey, man, I appreciate you getting involved, but I know you're going to do that being the warrior that you are. And I just want, people to understand that this is an ongoing process, and we, the members of the Thing Hampton community, will not buckle under. Again, I want to thank you, Marty, for listening to my call.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Basically, I'm going to piggyback on something that Mr. Williams said. Plus, what we need to do is we need to keep in mind that this is the rich versus the poor. So, you had these millionaire white guys come in to take over the school. My thing is, if those people want to get involved, they don't have to come in to take over the school. If they really want to help the kids, and they really want to help the community like they say they do. So if your focus is education and you really want to help the school, you don't have to come in to take over the school. Why don't you pump in resources into the schools? Lester has an excellent principal already at the school. Ms. Price is doing the best she can under the circumstances that she's been put in right now. I think if those people really want to help, they could put in the money and the resources to really help the children. Look at it like this. The school is 95% black, but 90% of the teachers at Conerstone are white. That's not going to happen at any prestigious white school, Hutchinson, MUS, Browcrest, St. George's. And my thing was, when I talked to the principal over there at Conerstone, Mrs. Settles, the problem I had was, I said, Miss Settles, you are the all-black school. And 95% of the school is black, but 90% of your staff is white. I said, why is it that you can't hire more black teachers? I said, that way you giving some black people an opportunity to get a job so they can take care of their family, so they can have benefits. You know, her thing is they don't even want to address that issue, knowing that it's lack of diversity in the school. Why is it that the black kids can't see people that they can relate to, people that they can look up to as young black men and young black women in the school? I was trying to fight for more black teachers and more black employees. They got custodials working in the building at the Conerstone level and on the Conerstone end of the building, and those people are making minimum wage. I was fighting for her to pay those people more money to clean up. And somebody gonna tell me that I was a racist because I wanted more blacks in the building so we can have more representation of us in the building. And I'm like, to me, I just couldn't understand it. How is that I'm a racist because I want more black people to work? Look at the economy. We need better jobs. We need to do things the right way. So I just don't understand how is that people look at their situation in their light when you want to try to give other people to work an opportunity to work. And they don't even want to address that issue. Everything we've brought up and talked to them about, it's just like they sweeping it under the rug. And really the mistreatment of the kids. They had been denying it, and they knowing that these things are happening in the school. They know that. So it's so many things that is going on in the school that it's unbelievable. You know, and then and they want to make it seem like everybody in the community is wrong. And it's like, you know, you got kids who live in the Binghamton area according to the attendance zone policy. Only way you're supposed to be going to Conerstone if you live in the Binghamton area. And if you do not live in the Binghamton area, you have to go to Conerstone, or you have to attend Conerstone if you live outside of the Binghamton area. You have to live in another ASD low-performing area. And right now, mostly all the ASD low-performing schools are in North Memphis. They got kids coming from Cordova, Germantown. Those people don't supposed to be in the school. They violating the attendance zone policy. And if you can go back and check, and these are facts, it hasn't been any data to this day stating that a charter school is better than a public school. And the only way these charter schools are doing well is because they are hand-picking their students. They hand-picking students. So they're going out to get the best of the best. If I'm getting the best of the best, you better believe it, my school and our scores and statistics are going to be good as well, because I'm picking the kids that I want to have in the school. You know, they sending students home with suspensions with no paperwork. That's a violation. I've talked to several parents that have children that attend Conerstone, and they send them home with no suspension, and they sitting at home for a week, 2 weeks, and then they'll call them, or the parent had to bug the hell out of them when to bring them back to school. So for all these parents who have kids, do not allow Conerstone to send your child home with a suspension without something in writing, because they don't want to have all those suspensions on the books, because that's against the rules and part of the policy. Which Conerstone, they didn't even have a policy manual, policy and procedure book, no parent handbook, no student handbook. They just gave out their first handbook last Thursday. In 2013, they just got a handbook. So, you know, it's a lot of things that people have to be aware of, and it's a lot of rules that Conerstone that they are violating at the school. I mean, you look at it. You got children walking down the hall with no shoes on. Yeah, and they saying now, yeah, we corrected the problem. But that was a problem in the first place. You should have never done it in the first place. If a child used the restroom on himself because the teacher didn't allow them to use the restroom, then they put those soiled clothes in a plastic bag, and now they walking around with it in a bag at some point during the day, and everybody see those children with those wet clothes in a bag, and now they calling the kids all out of their names. How do you think those kids are going to feel? That's going to make those children not even want to go back to school, because they're going to be calling them all kind of names. So, it's just a lot of things that's going on at the school. We had a daughter who had an asthma attack at the school. They notified the parent 2-3 hours later. So the little girl had to miss quite a few days out of school. But this same little girl had peed on herself, and they sent this little girl home with somebody else's clothes on with no panties on, no underwear on. So how do you think that parent's supposed to feel about a situation like that? Knowing that somebody had sent my daughter home with somebody else's clothes on, and then she there with no underwear on. And then they trying to make it seem like this parent is wrong for getting upset. And then you have kids who teachers didn't allow them to use the restroom, so they pee on themselves. And then when the parent is upset, they making it seem like, that's not an issue. That's not a problem. They don't understand why they're upset. You at an all-black school, and they have pennants on the wall, and with those pennants on the wall, it's all white schools. I don't have a problem with the white pennants on the wall, but you still should have some historical black colleges on the wall. There's nothing wrong if you letting the child know that it's good to go to Tennessee State, Fisk, Morehouse, Spelman. It's nothing wrong with going to those schools. Those are great schools. At the end of the day, you want them to go there to get a good quality education so they can become productive citizens in this country. But I spoke to Miss Settles about it, and then Miss Sarah Lewis had to basically make a big fuss about it in order for them to put some pennants up on the wall. So, if we had just little small issues like that along with some of the larger issues, but it's just things that needs to be addressed, and they just still trying to ignore the fact that some of these things are still happening. And our goal is just to continue to let them know that there's a problem, and we want these problems addressed. And the community just want Conerstone out. They don't have a problem with bringing in another charter. But I'm getting ready to pass this over to Brother Tatum, and he's going to take calls. So he will be taking calls at the 11:30 hour. So feel free to call in, because I will be here for another 30 minutes. If you have any questions for me about the issues and everything that's going on at Conerstone. So take it away.
All right. My brother, you can stay right here. You can stay right here. Yes, sir. Thank you, my brother.
Marty Merriweather.
Marty
Merriweather.
This was I wasn't aware of the broadcast of Dr. Richmond today, but I really thank God for it, and I thank God for you, Brother Merriweather, because of the fact that, and not only yourself, but other young men as yourself who are able to stand up and see the truth and don't mind speaking about the truth. I heard you mention some things that that's sort of basing on some issues. Well, first let me say this. When I heard you talking about Lester, I'm old school. I came up when Lester was up in the top ranks. I came from Manassas. So it was all of us, Booker T. Washington, Lester, Melrose, and Hamilton, and so on, right? And it makes me so angry to see what's going on today and to hear you talking about what's happening with Lester. And I'm going to tell you something else that really makes me angry. It's because of the fact that we know what these people do, and yet there are older blacks like myself who are responsible for the condition and thing that we in today because we didn't continue to stand up. You got me? So, and yet we see all this stuff going on and other issues that I want to talk about, and we play these roles. I'm talking about my own people. You know, like I heard Dr. Richmond ask you a question about this one black face that's sitting what is on the board.
The principal.
The principal, right? And then when I'm able to look at what we call Black History Month, you know, we get this 1 month out of a whole year, and our churches will only broadcast it 1 week out of that 1 month, which is the shortest month of the year. Now, the thing that gets me is that it is so important for us to know the history of what's going on that brings us up to today. Why can't we, as a church, as a people, take the Bible and use it the way God says use it? If I didn't know the truth, if I didn't believe in what's getting ready to take place in this world, and I'm not telling people that it's going to be in 2013, but I'm telling you that's what I do believe. We've been broadcasting all our lives that Jesus is coming. I believe in my heart that this is the year, that the end of this time is getting ready to take place. Now, Brother Merriweather, my point is, now you're a very well educated person, all right? I want to bring out some points in the Bible, and then I want to kind of get an understanding as to why is it that there are certain portions, words in the Bible that we simply ignore. We won't even speak on them, and I believe that we have all different type problems and trying to come up with all different type solutions. But here's one solution I believe that the Bible speaks of, and we won't use it. Let me mention this. I'm going to be taking call-ins, but just give me a few minutes, okay? Because I want to mention some other things that I would like to also for us to mention about as well as the Leicester School. Now, we've got issues like, right now, we're having those who are wanting the police officers to be reviewed for using excessive force on people. We've also got issues where they're now talking about bringing in stiffer punishments for our children who uses guns in violence. Now, here we are in a situation like we're looking at Leicester School, right? What do you think going to happen to these children if something is not done soon enough when it comes to they get a certain age and the conditions and things that they're living in, especially Binghamton and all over other areas? What are we facing? We're facing our children becoming involved in crime, and when they're involved in this, and we don't show the history as why, especially our young black men are in the conditions that they're in. We don't show this. We don't show where this really started from. Is it really them? So what is this doing? And then we're looking at our police officers who now are being investigated for more aggressive behavior toward our children. We don't take and put our state of minds in the fact that, let me just say, a black police officer. Here he comes almost once to twice a week. He's looking at a young black man dead, shot by another young black man, right? This officer, and I know we got some money, but I'm talking about the godly officers that we got, that stands up and put their life on the line for our communities. And I'm not saying that people are wrong for wanting them to investigate it, but what do we think some of their state of minds are when they constantly looking at our children killing each other, and yet they're protecting our lives, trying to help us? And when you get to a point that you feel like nobody cares about you putting your life on the line like they do, like sometimes that's the way I feel. I come on this broadcast and I say things that put my life on the line, but sometimes I feel like don't nobody care. So what we doing is we allowing the enemies, the people that sit way up in high places, to bring on mass confusion in our communities, and we sit back and we do nothing about it. I heard our brother say that when he talked about those who come in our communities, what they could do is pump more resources into the schools, right? I listened to the statement that he made when he talked about how people would label him as a racist simply because he speaks the truth. And that happens. And you know what? I've not only experienced it, Brother Merriweather, from whites, but I've experienced it from some of our own people. When we come forth and stand up and tell the truth. Now, let me say this one basically last statement here, and we're going to be accepting call-in. We got all these problems going on. We got the situation with Lester School. We got the situation with that's coming at our officers. Probably going to make a lot of them more angry. We got our children that has came up with lives that's so sad and pitiful that they don't understand, feel like nobody care about them. But there is one solution. Preachers, those of us who are pastors of God, I want to ask you a question. In the book of Isaiah, the 13th chapter, it speaks about the wrath of Babylon. Babylon being the nation that held God's people in slavery. Now, when you look in the book, in the history books in school, Brother Merriweather, we were told that Babylon, through history books, fell so many thousands of years ago. If you look in the Bible speaks of a wrath of Babylon, but it never falls until the book of Revelation, 18th chapter. You feel me? So Babylon simply is talking about America. Now Isaiah, the 13th chapter, is saying that God is going to send people down as far as the ends of heaven. I might be sounding a little lunatic to some folks, right? But this injustice that's going up against, especially us as black people, the Bible is speaking of it. That this deal is getting ready to happen. A wrath is coming. The payback is coming on those who sitting way up in high places, who constantly causing this mass murder to be in our communities. And yet, we as churches want to only talk about black history once a year. Let's do a call. We got a call?
You go comment.
Okay, all right. Brother Merriweather, come on and give me some more few words. Give me some more feedback, because I like what you talked about when you talked about the resources. They're not pumping resources into our communities to be able to help us out. You know, and I say that because of the fact that the only resources I've seen pumped in. We got a call? Yes. Okay, hold on just a minute, bro. Let's take this call and then we're going. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Hey, good morning, Brother Merriweather. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on?
It's Kenneth Robinson. How's everything going?
Oh, okay. What's going on, Kenneth?
I got a two-part question here, and I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but I understood what you were saying as far as about the everybody having a say. But what I got a question about is the leadership in the community. So education, of course, is the foundation. Everybody having a good life, and that goes in. What I'm trying to see is people have know-how, because a lot of the parents are ignorant to what's going on. That's not a bad thing. They just do not understand how the process goes. But we have people in the community that have the power, resources to step in, alter these bad things that happen to these kids, and I think they should be held accountable. Now, what has the administration, I know, even though we know that the Memphis City schools are no longer going to be available next year, but that does not give the current administration of Memphis a pass. These still are our kids, and even though they are going to charter schools, what have they did, what have they said, stepped in, all to what happened?
Well, basically right now, they they haven't done anything because for the simple fact, they have this ASD, it's Achievement School District. They're allowed to come in, any school that's in the bottom 5%, they're allowed to come in and take over the school. So in the next 2 years, next 2 years, they'll be able to come in 2013, 2014, they'll have 11 schools. And then for the 2014, 2015 school year, they'll have 35 schools. So the Unified School District does not have any control over what they do. So, but people have to understand, they have to look at it like this. Just because a charter school is in your area or in your community, you do not have to go to that charter school. If enough people go to the Board of Education and say, okay, we want you all to provide transportation and busing for our kids to go attend another school that's a unified school, because it's no longer Memphis City schools. So those people, the school district, the board itself will have to provide transportation, like what's going on in Binghamton. Those parents do not have to send their kids to that school. But what we were telling the people in the community, while we are fighting this fight, please do not take your child out of the neighborhood school. That's our school. Taxpayers, we paying for those buildings. As a taxpayer, but we telling people, please do not take your kid out of the school as of right now, because we want to continue to go through this fight. And see, people have to understand, Memphis City Schools was at fault because of the rotating principals every year. See, the community didn't have any involvement in that. So, this thing is a big picture that's getting ready to become a Memphis problem, because the ASD is getting ready to take over all those schools. So I hope, Carla, I was able to answer your question where you can clearly understand what's going on, because Memphis City Schools or the Unified School District doesn't have any say in the ASD school system.
Okay, Brother Merriweather, I want to get some more feedback on the statement you made about those who come into our communities and yet they could pump resources into the community and still helping to destroy our communities. Can you give us some?
Yeah, we got like this. They had this group called the Binghamton Development Corporation. Mm-hmm. So I have some white friends. Mm-hmm. So I talk to them and we have this dialogue and we pretty much discuss a lot of these things. They're in the community. Binghamton has been zoned commercial, and they're coming in and they building up these houses. It's just like what happened in Harlem. Mm-hmm. What they're going to do is they fix these houses up, and then at some point they're going to come in, knock them all down. Mm-hmm. And then when they knock them down and build them back up, what just happened? They're going to increase the property value. The house going to be more expensive now. So we have been complaining about gentrification of the neighborhood. And for the people who don't know what gentrification means, that means rich people come in, buy up the property, buy up the small businesses, and displace the people who can't afford it. So when you look at the Binghamton community as a whole, in that Leicester area, that's a black area. The Binghamton Development Corporation, what they're doing is they buying up the property. And they basically right now, they just fixing up some of the houses, and they building brand new houses. And when they build those brand new houses, those houses cost more money. Mm-hmm. So now the blacks in that Binghamton community, which is more of a low income area, those people can't afford it. So now they move out. And if they do this for the next 5 to 10 years, guess what? It's not going to be any blacks living in that community. But if they, see, what you got to understand is, people like the people that attend Christ United Methodist Church, they always say we doing missionary work. Mm-hmm. So to me, I was talking to Drew Simple, who's the executive director of Conerstone. I said, so what you telling me, you all call it missionary work and you all consider what you do a service. He said feeding blacks and picking up trash for blacks. Yeah. That he's saying that's a service. He's saying also we fix on elderly people's houses. What I'm saying is, you fixing on their roof, but you doing that through a grant. You're not paying for that. To me, if you want to educate the people in Binghamton, let's start with the parents. Let's get the ones who don't have a diploma, let's get them their GED. Let's put them in some job training classes. Let's give them some interns, and let's give those people good paying jobs. when they prove to you that they can perform the job, let's get them a good paying job. So now if they got a good paying job, guess what you've done? Now they went from low income, they went from no income or low income to middle class. Now all of a sudden, their child is in a much better situation now. So now that child education can be a little better because now the parent no longer has to rely on the government. Now you've gotten them off government assistance. To me, that's providing a service. Not feeding them, picking up trash, and fixing on the roof. Doing the roof work for elderly is great. But if you notice, every time Conerstone, just for an example, when they do something, they always want to feed the people. Because you know what happens when they feed the people, right? We all come out. Mm-hmm. If we're not offering any food, they know that they're not going to come. We've done community meetings. They sent people to our community meetings just to come there and interrupt. You remember how Malcolm X had that on the move when he was saying, "Get your hands out of my pocket." Mm-hmm. Those people came there to disrupt, to draw attention to what they were doing.
Right.
And I've talked to Drew Sipple, who's the executive director of Conerstone. This is the analogy that I gave him. I said, you all continue to mistreat the people, and you all are not doing anything about it. Remember in 1965 in Birmingham, Alabama, when the white men were sicking the dogs on the blacks? John F. Kennedy was the president. They were spraying them with the water hose. They was hitting them with the billy clubs. And when the whites was getting the best of the blacks, John F. Kennedy said there was no law in effect that would allow him to come in and help the blacks. Mm-hmm. Keep that in mind. I'm going somewhere.
Right.
So now, when the blacks started getting the best of the whites, John F. Kennedy sent in the troops. And remember, it wasn't no new law. But when they erupted and started fighting, right, he went in to help. So I told Chris Barbick, who's the superintendent of the ASD schools, I said, Drew Sipple and Lisa Settles are not trying to do anything in this situation to diffuse what's going on. They are allowing all this mistreatment of kids to go on. And you all keep saying it's nothing you all going to do. But as soon as the community rise up and they have a big fight, mm-hmm, and somebody gets hurt or something bad happens, mm-hmm, then they'll want to step in and say, okay, let's do something. Right. And the question I'm going to have them is, why didn't you do something in the beginning? Right. That was the same question I thought about when they talked about John F. Kennedy. Why didn't he do something in the beginning before it even turned into a fight? Because they had the power to do something.
Kind of makes me think.
Make you think a little bit, huh?
Yeah. When Malcolm made that statement when Kennedy got killed, when he said, when they said another chicken gone home to roost, right?
Yeah.
So when we speak about the way things are going right now, and we end up with pushing the people out of the community, what do you say happens to our children? When they displaced, where do they end up at?
Well, and that's where you get some of the lack of education. Mm-hmm. Because what I tell people is this: if the parent is in a much better situation, the child has a tendency to be in a better situation. I was talking to the guy, Chris Barbick. He didn't even know the difference between no income, and low income. Mm-hmm. He couldn't understand it. That's a culture thing. Right. I said, no income is $0. They just living strictly off the government. Mm-hmm. Low income is people who not making enough money to really survive. He couldn't understand it. And I said, that's what we're dealing with in the heart of the inner city in an all-black community like that. Right. Because when you look, it's a lot of apartments. A lot of people might call them projects, but it's a lot of apartment complexes around there. My thing is, because you don't know what that child is going through. Like I told Drew Sipple, I said, your people are not really truly concerned about my people. I said, how many teachers do you have staying after school tutoring our kids for free? He told me none. They let me know right there, right, that they're not concerned. As soon as that bell rings and it's time to go home, they get on out of there. Mm-hmm. Somebody who's concerned is going to stick around. Mm-hmm. Leicester Community Center have 120 of those kids over there every day. They don't get paid to tutor those kids and help them with their homework. They got volunteers over there doing it out of the kindness of their heart.
Let me ask you, now what is the grade level of lesson? What is
Alright, Conerstone is pre-K through 3.
Right.
Leicester is 4 through 8. But Conerstone is getting ready to take over 4th and 5th grade.
Okay, we got a call. Go ahead, call.
Yes,
Turn your radio down. Turn your radio down.
yeah, Mr. Merriweather, this is an awesome job that he's doing. This urban session, the one is football teammate.
What's going on, Irv?
And I just want to tell you, on the right day, and the first day with me being, I'm out of Conerstone. I went to school at East. And when I tell you, Binghamton has become home to me. Love the kids. I'm involved with everything that goes on through East High School. All 3 of my kids attend at East High. And this problem is not going to stop. Yeah. Fester. So we got to put a brighter picture because everybody that's affiliated with what's going on is tied in. So we got to see, we got to do it right now, and we got to fight this thing. And as parents, the parents that you have that are involved with the movement that you have going on, is no law that can stop these parents from every day being in Conerstone, showing their face, being a part of what's going on, if they can visually see for themselves. They cannot stop them from coming in. So as parents, go in and see what they're doing with your kids all day. And it's not just your kids, see what they're doing with everybody else's kids. Because it takes a village to raise kids. And we got to be that village, and we got to stand in for one another. If this family member can't make it, somebody needs to be there and let them know that we will not be moved, we won't disappear. And if everything, you said a key thing, you can tell me that you coming to help me. But if you have to be the one that just take over and visually, and physically do it all by yourself and remove me, you won't help me. You basically just taking over. Those are my comments, and man, keep fighting, and we'll call once you get off the radio.
All right. Well, another thing is that I want to piggyback on it. For the people that's attending East High School, what they're doing with the ASD, it's a process. They trying to do a feeder program. I talked to the ASD guy. We've talked several times on the phone. And by us talking several times on the phone, and then we talked in person. And see, people don't understand it. When they have a feeder program, that means if they take Leicester, East High School is next. And this is getting ready to happen throughout the whole entire city. When they have 35 schools, they can get up to 69. Right now, they just don't have the manpower. But in the next 2 or 3 years, believe me, they will have the manpower. And if they get 69 schools, that means they are meant to see the schools with just a whole nother name on it with a different spin. Right. And see, what people don't realize is when they have those feeder programs, they're going to take over the high school. That means they're going to have the elementary, the middle school, and the high school. And if you go back and look behind this charter school movement, it's business people running these schools. It's not educators.
Right.
It's about money. At the end of the day, it's all about money. You know for a fact, them people will not be in these schools dealing with education, public education, if it wasn't money involved. Right. They can sit there and tell you all this stuff and go all around the world and give you a bunch of gibberish and try to knock you over in the left field. But at the end of the day, they there because of economics.
Right.
And what's a better way to get paid? On poor blacks.
Right.
You can't go to these other white neighborhoods because they're not going to be in that same situation.
They're not going to allow it.
That's right. And you know MUS not going to have 90% black teachers.
Right, right.
So why are we supposed to just settle for less?
Right. You know, Brother Merriweather, I look at what's going on right now, and I've heard you speak about what the future could be like, and I look back at my life. You know, I came up as a Black Panther, and there were many of us young people, not just Panthers, where we was trying to say what the future could be like, right? But they ignored us. People ignored us and didn't pay attention to like it's almost like we're being ignored now, and what could happen in the future if something is not done about it. You know, and when I look back at, you probably saw this movie called The Panthers, you know, and how we got in the condition and shape that we're in by them putting the drugs in our communities and so on and et cetera, you know, and poverty breeds crime. Poverty definitely breeds crime. And then I've heard Dr. Richmond on his trip over in Africa, how he talked about how they went over there with this missionary deal and et cetera, and all these business people move in.
Yeah, colonialism.
Colonialism. Like first they come in with the fake religious doctrines, you know, trying to get you to bow down, be scared of God and all this mess, and then they come in with their business people, right? So the same thing is happening here in America. So what I'm looking at is a continuing process of death that's being on us. Amen.
Yeah.
You know, Brother Mary, I'm so thankful that God allowed you to be able to come today and that you continue to struggle on and continue to fight for what you believe is right, and no matter what people say, you continue on with this struggle, brother. Would you like to have some final words to say to us?
Yeah, the first thing I want to do is I want to congratulate Leicester Middle School basketball team. They won the middle school state championship.
Okay.
And my brother, Des Merriweather and Penny Hardaway, they are like co-coaches. So they both coaching the team.
Okay.
So I just at least want to send a shout out to them. And for the Binghamton community, we're going to have our next community meeting. And that community meeting is going to be February the 23rd at 12 o'clock. So we're going to make sure, because we're going to have some state representatives there, and we're also going to have, you know, G.A. Hardaway, and they're going to be doing hearings. So everybody that has some evidence and information about mistreatment of the kids at Conerstone, everybody that has those issues of that nature, they're going to be allowed to come at 10 o'clock that Saturday morning and speak. And Mayor Harrington is going to address the Binghamton community because he had a phone conversation with the governor about what's going on in Binghamton and what's going on in the city of Memphis as a whole as all this relates to this situation. So he's going to be there because he told the people he was definitely going to come back and give them the message from his conversation with the governor. We're also going to have the president of the NAACP. He will be there in attendance, and he's going to speak along with myself and a few other community leaders.
Okay,
so
this
February the 23rd at Leicester Community Center at 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock.
But if we want everybody to come at 10,
right,
so you can go through the hearing process, if you have evidence and proof about the mistreatment of the children at the school. So those people will be able to speak at 10, but then we will have our big community meeting at 12 o'clock, February 23rd.
Thank you, Brother Merriweather, and we thank God for allowing us to be able to hear such a great and awesome word. And don't y'all forget, man, that keep your head up, because one thing about it, God sees us in justice, and let you all know that those who believe you're going to be ready, will you be ready? Thank you very much. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Good job, man.
Filling my spirit up with that, man, because see, that about brings tears in my eyes when I look back at when I came up, man. It was like, Leicester was like, you know what I'm talking about? That's something we was doing. You know what I'm saying? My house, Leicester, Hamilton, and now to hear all this, you know what I'm talking about? You know, man, but I'm so glad for the truth about it. See, I know, you know what I'm talking about? That's where it's going, knowing the truth, not what they came and taught, but I had to see it myself.
Yeah.
That word, you know. I thank you so much, brother.
Yeah, you did a good job, man. Oh, yeah.
Hey, brother, you spoke from your heart, man. You know, you gave some valuable information.
Yeah, it's been a tough situation over there.
I know. So are you one of the teachers there?
No, I'm just, I was born and raised in the community. Yeah, my whole family.
Right, so you want
mom, uncles, aunties, family members.
Get your number, you know? I could possibly bring you back on, you know. And, let me, okay, thank you.
What's your name? It's 315-2809. So you normally do the show from 11:30 to 12?
But I do it on the second and fourth Sunday.
Okay.
So Red comes on, another brother, he comes on. on the first Thursday.
And he do 11:30.
11:30.
So when do Dr. Richmond do the show?
He comes on every Sunday at 11 o'clock.
So he do it from 11 to what? 11:30.
11 to 11:30.
Okay.
He's on every Sunday. See, actually, we all together.
Okay,
Right,
I
but
got you.
But Dr. Richmond is the founder and director. It's really his broadcast moment of truth. You got me now?
Yeah.
We financially come in together and we take the other half.
Okay.
You know, like I do second, fourth Sundays and stuff like that too.
Yeah, it's been a real hot topic in the neighborhood, and it's been all on the news. You ain't been seeing it on the news?
I drive to it.
Oh, okay. It's been in the newspaper. It's been on the news and in the newspaper every week.
Right.
Every week.
And it's sad, man.
Every week.
I mean, but yet the media is not gonna put out there like.
Yes, you know they gonna just touch on the here and now, and then there's certain stuff that they gonna put in.
Right.
They not gonna put all the stuff in that you would want to be put in.
Right. That's sad, man. It's just that's why I say, man, that I'm so glad, man, that it's Merriweather, right?
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that I got something to lean on, and when it comes to God and Jesus, and not that hypocritical stuff.
Yeah.
But Jesus coming, He gonna kill you because you went to this club to have sex and married. Well, you better read that Bible and understand the truth about it. I'm talking about when He comes in Revelation 3 and 9, He gonna tell them folks, those who claim to be the Jews, you are not the Jews. You hear me? Or like, so, hey, they think they got anger because a black man came president again. You're gonna really be in shock when you see Jesus.
Yeah.
And see the color of his skin just like mine and yours.
Yeah.
You hear me? They really gonna be upset then. You know what they gonna do then? You know? It's up, man. But you know, until then we gotta carry the fight on. You know, and it's. I mean, you know, when I look at our children over in the community, right? You know, and we be able to.
Is it broadcast? Is it on the